Welcome to Worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement, where truth is not inherited from systems, but restored from origin, where faith is not reduced to ritual, but awakened as living alignment, and where the voice of Yahweh has never been silent, only unheard by those who were never taught how to listen. Let this settle in your spirit before we go any further. Everything you were taught about faith being passive, about waiting, hoping, enduring in silence while expecting something to change, must be challenged. Because what you were given was not the fullness of truth. It was a fragment, and fragments, when presented as complete, create limitation. You were taught to sit and wait for Yahweh to move. But the Hebraic reality reveals something entirely different. Yahweh has never stopped moving. From the very beginning, his voice was not introduced as an occasional interruption into silence. His voice was the foundation of creation itself. Before structure, there was sound. Before form, there was utterance. And that means something most people overlook. Everything that exists was brought forth through a sustained expression of his will. Not a one-time event, a continuous reality. Which means his voice did not fade after creation. It continues, it sustains, it upholds. So the question is no longer whether Yahweh is speaking. The question becomes, why have so many lost the ability to perceive what has never stopped? And this is where the deception begins. Because if you can be convinced that Yahweh is distant, then you will spend your life trying to reach what was never far. If you can be convinced that his voice is rare, then you will settle for moments instead of living in awareness. If you can be convinced that faith is passive, then you will never engage the alignment required to actually hear. And so religion over time replaced alignment with activity. It replaced awareness with repetition. It replaced living connection with structured performance. And what was once a dynamic relationship became a distant concept. But the Hebraic understanding never supported that distance. Because the word ruach, the breath, the wind, the spirit, reveals that Yahweh's presence is not external to your existence. It is the very essence sustaining it. You are breathing right now. And that breath is not just biological. It is a reminder, a living witness, that the presence of Yahweh is not something you visit. It is something you are sustained by. And yet, despite this closeness, people feel disconnected. Not because Yahweh withdrew, but because noise was introduced. Noise that trains your mind to doubt what your spirit can perceive. Noise that tells you are separate. Noise that convinces you that you must strive, perform, and prove yourself just to be acknowledged. And over time, that noise becomes familiar. It becomes comfortable. It becomes your default way of thinking. So even when truth is present, it feels foreign. And when something feels foreign, it is often rejected. Not because it is false, but because it disrupts what you have grown used to. But something happens when you begin to slow down. When you begin to silence the external voices that constantly compete for your attention. When you stop filling every moment with distraction, you begin to notice something that was always there. A stillness, not empty, but full. A presence, not distant, but immediate. A clarity that does not come from outside information, but from internal alignment. And this is where the shift begins, because you start to realize that hearing Yahweh is not about volume. It is about alignment. It is not about waiting for something louder. It is about becoming sensitive to what is already present. And sensitivity requires stillness. Not just physical stillness, but internal quiet. A quieting of fear, a quieting of doubt, a quieting of the constant need for external validation. Because as long as those things dominate your awareness, they will distort your perception. And distortion makes truth harder to recognize. But when the noise begins to fade, the signal becomes clear. Not because it increased, but because interference decreased. And in that clarity, something begins to awaken within you, a recognition. Not something new, but something familiar, something ancient, something that feels like returning rather than discovering. Because deep within you, beyond conditioning, beyond learned fear, beyond imposed identity, there has always been a knowing, a quiet awareness that you were never truly disconnected, that you were never truly alone, that you were never created to wander without direction. But that knowing was buried, layer by layer, voice by voice, experience by experience, until what was natural began to feel unreachable. But now it is being uncovered, not by adding something new, but by removing what never belonged. And as those layers begin to fall away, your perception shifts. You begin to recognize that faith is not waiting. Faith is alignment. It is the act of positioning your awareness in agreement with what Yahweh has already established. It is living from truth instead of searching for it. It is moving with confidence, not because you have all the answers, but because you are connected to the source of all truth. And that changes everything. Because now, you are no longer trying to force outcomes. You are aligning with what already is. You are no longer asking, is Yahweh speaking? You are asking, am I aligned enough to hear? And as that question begins to take root within you, am I aligned enough to hear? Everything starts to shift in a way that cannot be undone. Because now, the responsibility is no longer placed on Yahweh to speak louder. It is placed on you to become still enough, aware enough, aligned enough to perceive what has never stopped flowing. And this is where many begin to feel resistance. Because alignment requires unlearning. It requires the dismantling of ideas that once felt secure. It requires you to confront the possibility that what you believed was incomplete. Not entirely false, but incomplete. And incompleteness creates distortion. Because when truth is partial, it leads you in circles instead of forward. So you prayed, but without alignment. You waited, but without awareness. You believed, but without understanding. And over time, that cycle produced frustration. Because deep within you, something knew there was more. Something knew that connection with Yahweh was not supposed to feel distant, confusing, or inconsistent. Something within you resisted the idea that the Creator of all things would speak so rarely, so faintly, so unpredictably. And that inner resistance was not rebellion. It was recognition. Recognition that what you were experiencing did not match what was originally established. Because from the beginning, when Yahweh formed humanity, there was no separation in communication. There was no delay in response. There was no confusion in direction. There was clarity. There was rhythm. There was alignment. But alignment was never meant to function automatically without awareness. It required attentiveness. It required presence. It required a conscious participation in the relationship between Creator and creation. And this is what has been lost, not the voice, but the attentiveness to it. Because the modern world trains you to be distracted, constantly stimulated, constantly consuming, constantly reacting. And in that state, your awareness becomes fragmented, pulled in multiple directions, never fully present, never fully still. And without stillness, sensitivity is weakened. And without sensitivity, perception becomes dull. And when perception becomes dull, the voice of Yahweh begins to feel distant, not because it moved, but because your ability to discern it has been numbed. And so the solution is not to force spiritual experiences. It is not to manufacture emotion. It is not to chase moments. It is to restore sensitivity, to return to a place of awareness where your spirit is no longer competing with noise. Because the more noise you remove, the more clarity you experience. And clarity does not come as something external entering your life. It comes as something internal being uncovered. And this is why the Hebraic understanding of returning, of coming back to the original path, is so powerful. because it acknowledges that you are not creating connection. You are restoring awareness of what has always been, and that restoration begins within. It begins in the quiet decisions you make daily. What you allow into your mind, what you dwell on, what you give authority to shape your perception. Because every voice you entertain influences your alignment. Every thought you agree with adjusts your internal position. Every belief you hold either brings you closer to clarity or deeper into distortion. And this is why alignment is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process, a constant tuning, a daily recalibration. Because just like a frequency can drift slightly off over time, so can your awareness. And when that drift happens slowly, it often goes unnoticed, until one day you realize you no longer feel the clarity you once had. You no longer sense the direction you once walked in, and you begin to wonder what changed. But what changed was not Yahweh. What changed was your alignment. And the beautiful truth is this: alignment can always be restored. No matter how far you feel you've drifted, no matter how much noise has accumulated, no matter how long you have been disconnected in your awareness, the moment you begin to return, the moment you begin to quiet the noise, the moment you begin to seek alignment instead of answers, clarity begins to emerge again. Not all at once, but steadily, faithfully. Like light breaking through darkness, not by force, but by presence. And in that returning, something begins to strengthen within you. A confidence that is not based on external validation. A peace that is not dependent on circumstances. A clarity that does not require constant reassurance. Because now you are no longer operating from uncertainty. You are operating from alignment. And alignment produces stability. It produces consistency. It produces a way of living where you are no longer tossed between doubt and belief, fear and confidence, confusion and clarity. Instead, you become grounded, rooted, established. Not because life becomes easier, but because your connection becomes clearer. And when your connection is clear, your response to life changes. You no longer react out of fear, you respond from awareness. You no longer chase direction. You move with it. You no longer question whether Yahweh is near. You live from the understanding that He never left. And this is where faith transforms completely. It is no longer something you try to hold on to. It becomes something you live from. It becomes the lens through which you see, the foundation upon which you stand, the frequency through which you operate. And once you begin to live from that place, everything begins to align. Not because the world changes, but because you have. And when you change at that level, you begin to carry something different. A presence, a clarity, a steadiness that others can feel, even if they cannot explain it. Because alignment is not just internal, it becomes evident. It influences how you speak, how you move, how you respond, how you exist. And without saying a word, you begin to reflect the very frequency you have aligned with. And that is the true restoration. Not just hearing the voice of Yahweh, but becoming so aligned that your life begins to echo it. And now, as you stand at this place of awakening, understand this. Yahweh's voice has never been absent. It has always been present, unwavering, undefeated, and constant. What changes is your ability to perceive it, your capacity to resonate with it, your willingness to align your spirit to its frequency. Alignment is not passive. Alignment is not hoping. Alignment is listening. It is moving in rhythm with what has always been established, with what has always been alive. From the very first breath, Yahweh has spoken. Every sunrise, every rhythm of the wind, every heartbeat carries His voice. It is encoded in creation itself, woven into the fabric of your existence, resonating through your ruach, your spirit, your awareness. To be unaware is not a failure. It is a symptom of distraction. It is the natural consequence of living in a world that prizes noise over stillness, movement over attentiveness, and imitation over authentic resonance. And yet, even amidst the noise, his frequency remains. It is undefeated. It is uninterrupted. It is constant. And as you choose to turn inward, to still the mind, to quiet the distractions, you begin to perceive it. It is subtle at first, a whisper beneath the clamor of daily thought, a gentle vibration beneath the surface of your consciousness. But the more you cultivate presence, the more you honor alignment, the stronger the resonance becomes. It does not demand emotion or force, it simply requires attention. And here is the divine revelation. Faith is not a gift that is given. Faith is a frequency you tune into. It is an awareness you activate. It is not dependent on circumstance. It does not rise and fall with fortune or misfortune. It is not quiet hope or blind trust. Faith, in its original Hebraic essence, is living in alignment with the voice of Yahweh. It is the knowing that what has been spoken, what has been established, what has been breathed into creation is real, present, and eternally active. You were not created to chase Yahweh. You were created to resonate with him. You were formed to carry his frequency, to reflect his order, to live from his clarity. And when you begin to understand this, when you begin to truly embody this, your life transforms. Challenges no longer destabilize you. Confusion no longer blinds you. Fear no longer dominates you. You respond instead of react. You move with the rhythm that has always existed. You live with the clarity that has always been accessible. Imagine what it feels like to exist in full resonance with the undefeated voice of Yahweh. You are no longer searching. You are no longer longing. You are no longer trying to hear something that is silent. You are breathing in alignment with truth. You are walking in rhythm with eternity. You are living in awareness that every step, every breath, every thought is already part of the divine frequency. And in that living, you become a beacon. You become a transmitter. Your presence begins to influence others without effort. You reflect the clarity, the steadiness, the alignment of the Creator himself. This is why you have been drawn here. This is why this teaching resonates within your spirit. It is not coincidence, it is awakening. It is the subtle invitation to return to your original design, to remember your true essence, to reclaim the clarity that has always been yours. Begin today. Begin now. Quiet the noise. Observe your thoughts. Align your intentions. Tune your spirit. Step away from distraction. Return to the awareness that has always been present. And when you do, you will realize that Yahweh is not distant. He is not silent. He has never stopped speaking. You have simply begun to hear. You have begun to resonate. You have begun to align. And alignment, once activated, cannot be undone. It grows, it expands, it deepens, it transforms your perception, it transforms your presence, it transforms your life. So stay connected to Worldwide Truth Ecumenical Movement. Share this with those who are seeking clarity. Walk this path daily. Cultivate stillness. Honor alignment. And remember, the voice you seek has always been present. The signal has never faltered. The frequency is undefeated. And now you are learning how to hear it, how to embody it, how to live in its resonance every moment of your life. The time for waiting is over. The time for alignment is now. Tune in, breathe in, step into clarity, step into purpose, step into resonance with Yahweh. The voice is live. The frequency is eternal, and it is waiting for you.